What's up, guys? LQ here with the LQ Review. Thank you so much for joining me here at my YouTube channel. Right now, I would like to talk a little bit about Star Trek Starfleet Academy Episode 4. And I'm a big Star Trek fan, and I've made no secret, I'm not a huge fan of the Kurtzman era. Picard Season 3 was good. There's some other things that I've liked, but overall, I haven't liked it. I've mostly liked this. But you go back to the Star Trek, the original series. There's some episodes in there I didn't like. Go back to Star Trek The Next Generation, my all-time favorite Star Trek series. There's some episodes in there I didn't like. I guess it was bound to happen. There is now a Star Trek Starfleet Academy episode that I don't like. Hopefully this isn't a sign of things to come. You know, I really liked Strange New Worlds when Strange New Worlds started. But eventually it got so bad that it completely changed my opinion on that series to where now I say I don't even like that series, even though it started out strong for me. I've mostly liked Star Trek Starfleet Academy. I've reviewed the first 3 episodes here on this channel. The first episode, I thought, I was slightly positive on it. The second episode I really liked. The third episode was more on par of the first episode for me, was more on par with the first episode. But I didn't really like this one. I didn't really like episode 4. And I think that among people who like Starfleet Academy, and those people are out there, you just have to go online and you can find them. Among the people who like Starfleet Academy, I think I'm an outlier in this because it seems like most people who like Starfleet Academy have really liked this episode. Me, I've liked Starfleet Academy and I didn't like this episode at all. That's not to say that there's things in this episode that I didn't like, because there are some things in this episode that I liked, but overall, it didn't really hit for me. Now, as someone who has taught debate before, I like that component of this show. I like that every episode there's some lesson that the students are learning. This is an academy show. It's a show about kids in school. So I like that there's always lessons interweaved into the main narrative. And I found that the way that this particular episode was woven into what was going on with the Klingons, I felt like that mostly worked. This episode was very J-Den focused. I still don't like that name. But this episode was still very J-Den focused, and the status of the Klingon Empire. Where they've been. What's been going on with them since the burn. I found all that to be at least compelling. Maybe not good, but at least compelling. I felt like J-Den's internal conflict, the way that he emoted that, the way that the actor emoted his internal conflict through his acting, I thought that was well done. Even though I'm not necessarily a fan of the internal conflict that he's having, looking at the actor and the way that he's portraying that, I thought was pretty well done. But the issue, my dryer just went off. The issue is that the writing in Kurtzman Trek is so pedestrian and so predictable that it becomes tiresome. It all has the same feel to it. It all has the same direction to it. It all has the same, for lack of a better term, political ideology to it. It's all very, let's put it this way. I want to be very clear. I don't know who the writer of Star Trek Starfleet Academy is. I haven't looked it up, and I probably will when I'm finished with this video. But I've got my notes here, and while I was making my notes, I was like, I don't know who wrote it. But it was relevant for what I was writing. So I am going to look this up when we're done. And if I'm wrong, I will film a retraction video. So I want to be very clear, I don't know who the writer of this show is. But I guarantee you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that this show was written by a white liberal woman. 100%. There's no question in my mind about it. All the hallmarks are there. The Klingons are a warrior culture, but that culture has been so watered down to show that a pacifist culture is better than a warrior culture. To show that a warrior culture is not the right way to live life. Now, to be clear, I don't align with pacifism or warrior cultures ideologically. I tend to follow the Teddy Roosevelt ideology. Speak softly and carry a big stick. Peace through strength. That's kind of what I believe, but that's neither here nor there. I want to see the Klingons be the Klingons. I want to see a warrior culture be a warrior culture. We don't have to view the Klingons through some sort of moral lens. This is a fictional world. We are allowed to have cultures that live out in space in this fictional world that don't align with 2026 liberal political ideology. That's allowed to be a thing in this fictional world of Star Trek. We are allowed to have warrior cultures that are violent, that are brutal, that have unachievable standards for us in our 2026 ideology. Those things are okay. It's okay to have those things in fiction. The Klingons have completely lost their edge. They are now a race of teddy bears. They're the Ewoks. They're the Ewoks of Star Trek now. Worf was an interesting character because he wrestled with his duality. He wanted to embrace his warrior culture. He wanted his warrior culture to be a part of him. He wanted to understand where he came from. He wanted to some level, embrace that violence that comes with his culture. But he also wanted to embrace Starfleet. He wanted to embrace the role that he had chosen for his life. Worf was very... he was a very interesting character because he had the duality that he wrestled with, and it was so convincing and it was so believable. Jaden's duality, I'm not buying it at all. Here we have someone from what's supposed to be a warrior culture, this warrior culture that's lost its edge, this Sparta that has become Athens, this culture that used to be so formidable that is now just the Ewoks of Star Trek. Jaden has no interest in the Klingon culture. He wants to shun it in favor of this pacifist ideology, this weak ideology. And he says at the end that he is the Klingon Empire and he is Starfleet, but I don't think he's either. In its history, Starfleet hasn't been weak either. So I'm not buying Jaden as a character at all. I am tired of these modern writers wanting to play against the tropes, wanting to play against our expectations. It's okay to have characters fit into molds that we expect them to fit into. Every now and then you can subvert expectations, but when subverting expectations becomes the Hollywood norm, you're not subverting expectations anymore. Subverting expectations would be to have a warrior in Starfleet. That would be subverting our expectations. This isn't surprising at all. Unfortunately, it's not. And being a show that I believe is written by a white liberal woman, I don't know that, but I believe it. You're going to have male and female dynamics. It's always going to put the females into a power dynamic over the male. And that has been very true in this show. And so far, it hasn't really bothered me. But for some reason, it did this episode. And I'm not sure why. Those dynamics have been true the first 3 episodes as well. And maybe it's just the fact that this episode was focused on Klingons, and I have a certain expectation for Klingons. To have those male female dynamics come into play, it just kind of shines the light on them even more. And of course, if you have a show that's written by a white liberal woman, toxic masculinity is going to be something that comes into play. And here in this episode, we have toxic masculinity being exploited to trick the Klingons into taking a new world by force. And their own leaders are complicit in this farce. They're complicit in this stunt. And I cannot imagine, going back to the time of Picard, a Klingon ever being complicit in deceiving other Klingons, especially in this manner. But we aren't writing this show based on what we think would be a scenario in this time period. We're writing this show based on how we feel in 2026. Another issue that I have, and this is very much a nitpick, but if you're writing Star Trek, understand Star Trek. Understand the history of Star Trek. Have a working knowledge of the history of Star Trek. The Khitomer Accords were never a thing. The Khitomer Accords were. Again, going back to, do you really respect the source material? I don't know. Also, I still hate the Athena. I just don't think it's a good looking ship. I think it looks stupid. Listen, there's stuff that I like about this episode, and overall I'm still slightly positive on Starfleet Academy. I'm not going to pretend that I'm not slightly positive on it when there are other people who feel the same way. There's stuff that I like here, and despite my head telling me not to get too invested into this character because the whole series could very well get derailed and I could end up jumping ship eventually, I still like Caleb. I think that Caleb is an interesting character, and I believe that Caleb has a character arc that could definitely be endearing down the road. And it is now, honestly. I also stand by my assertion that Genesis is a very interesting character as well. Put those female power dynamics aside that I've nitpicked on earlier, I still believe that Genesis could be an interesting character that could go on to live on in Star Trek lore. For whatever reason, I find the character to be very compelling. The special effects have been spot on, but that's never really been an issue in Kurtzman Trek. The special effects have always been good. But I think that this young cast has a lot of chemistry. And I want to see them continue to develop this young cast. And by the way, some of the musical cues were great. I loved the classic Klingon musical cue when we saw the bird of prey come in. They're doing some things right. And for the first 3 episodes, I thought they were doing more right than wrong. This episode, I felt like they were doing a little more wrong than right. For me, I'm still optimistic, very little optimistic about the show. I think that this show could still very well be a very good Star Trek show. Maybe that's a little much. I believe that this show could still be a good Star Trek show. It's still on the train tracks that can take it there. But there's a fork up ahead. And it could very well take that fork and end up going down Discovery Lane. Very well could happen. I'm choosing to be optimistic right now. I'm choosing to believe that I'm going to like this show. One bad episode does not make a bad series, and not everything in this episode was bad. Overall, I still give Starfleet Academy a positive ranking as a series. But there are cracks in the armor. Shields are down to about 40%. All right, guys, what did you think of Starfleet Academy episode 4? Let me know in the comments down below. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. It's all good. Let me know what you think. I'm really trying to get to 2,000 subscribers. I've never really had any YouTube goals, but this year I've decided I'm going to have some YouTube goals. I'm trying to get to 2,000 subscribers. Hit that subscribe button and help me get there. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching, and until next time, we'll see you guys later.